Hi, Prime Minister. Good morning.
Good morning, Harjinder.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here, as always.
Prime Minister, please tell us that your government is planning to bring universal basic income now. How would that work?
Well, listen, the first thing I want to say is a big thank you to Red FM for being such an important part of us getting really key messages out to Canadians during this difficult pandemic. People were deeply worried about how we were going to make it through. I know the pandemic hit BC hard from the beginning, but that's where community media and reassuring people that the government was going to be there for them was so important. And that's why we stepped up in so many big ways to support families right across the country with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, with the wage subsidy, with historic investments so that people could control the pandemic and get through this difficult time. Now, as we move forward, we know we're starting to relaunch the economy. We're trying to get people back to work, but we're going to have to make sure that every step of the way we're still keeping people safe and building back our economy in the right way. And that means we're going to talk about a lot of different things, including universal basic income, which, we've already put elements forward around the CCB and the CERB have been helpful in that way. I think it's an important conversation.
And also, Prime Minister, tell us a little bit more about how's the V Charity investigation going on and how long it'll be before Canadians will find out the results.
Oh, listen, I've been very, very clear with Canadians that there was no conflict of interest. There was no inappropriate, preferential treatment of any sort. As I said, we moved forward extremely quickly to try to help students, to try to help seniors, to try and help Canadians in this historic time. And we moved quicker than usual, but we kept strong ethics throughout. Yes, the opposition is spending a lot of time talking about this issue, but we're staying focused on the support that Canadians need. Canadians are worried about their health, about their family's health, about their loved ones, about their jobs, about their sources of income going forward. And as a government, that needs to remain our focus, not politics. So we're engaging with Canadians on the things that matter, which is why I'm so excited about doing a virtual tour today in BC to talk with British Columbians about the things that they're preoccupied with. I'll let opposition politicians play politics. I'm going to stay focused on Canadians.
Yeah, well, Mr. Trudeau, federal government stepped up promptly, announced various financial assistance programs. CERB was very popular, CEBA, wage subsidy. Canadians are really grateful, Prime Minister, for those programs. But with this deficit of billions of dollars, how are we going to pay for it? Some people are really worried.
Harjinder, I've heard a number of people talk about that, and I think they forget, particularly politicians who are spending all their time talking about that, they forget that if we hadn't given that money to Canadians, not only would Canadians be maxing out their credit cards, taking extra mortgages, and plunging themselves into debt, we would have had incredibly much longer lines for food banks as people can't afford groceries. Families would have been put in the streets because they can't afford to pay their rent. We would have had significant challenges faced by Canadian families across the country if we hadn't stepped up to protect our health, because we would have seen continued impact on COVID. And as we're seeing from the United States and other places, if you don't control COVID-19, the economy and citizens suffer intensely. So we're going to continue to make sure that every step of the way we are there for Canadians, as I promised we would be, regardless of what other politicians say. We're going to keep supporting Canadians in the way that is right, both for now and to build a stronger future in the coming years.
Prime Minister, you probably remember when you came to Surrey, we discussed it before. Surrey Langley Sky Train is going to go in effect pretty soon. Do you think that your government can have some kind of money or some funding for this project?
Not only have we put money forward in partnership with BC for public transit projects in Surrey, but we also just recently put forward over $540 million for public transit through the Safe Restart program. We are there in supporting transit, and we will continue to be.
We all know that you've been very favorable to bring the new immigrants to this country, Prime Minister. Labor market analysis has become a pain. It's a tool of exploitation now. Can you advise our Immigration Minister, Mr. Medicino, or Carla Qualtrough to abolish this? Because literally people are crying who are being exploited. They will really give you the blessings if you can do something about it. They're really paying.
I have heard many, many heartbreaking stories, and that's why we need to strengthen our approach to welcoming Canadians and not having them be in vulnerable situations. We know that immigration is going to be an essential part of building a stronger economy for Canada, and giving people flexibility is going to be essential. We need to make sure that it's being done right, that people are protected, but also Canadians are protected, and getting that balance right is something that we're very much focused on. But I can assure you that our focus on immigration as an essential part of growing the economy, of creating more jobs at a time where we need more jobs, is going to continue to be. And Minister Mendicino and I have worked very, very closely on strengthening our welcoming nature as a country. And I can say that MPs like Suk Dhaliwal and Randeep Sarai have been absolutely outstanding in being advocates for vulnerable people and strengthening our immigration system as well.
Did they tell you that they're selling LMIA for $50,000?
As always, Canadians have confidence in our immigration system when it follows the rules and when there is enforcement. And anyone who is breaking the rules, anyone who is exploiting vulnerable people, will be punished to the full extent of the law.
And also, Prime Minister, here, softwood lumber issues, the prices are skyrocketing. Can you do something, because thousands of people are working in this industry and a lot of mills are shut down now. Can you do something to rejuvenate this industry?
Well, we're pleased with the World Trade Organization ruling that pointed out that Canada is doing the right things and the United States is wrong in its approach on softwood lumber and punishing the Canadian lumber industry. So we're taking this fight, continuing this fight internationally, but at the same time we're investing at home. We announced almost $83 million to support product development and commercialization through the investments in the forestry industry transformation program. We are continuing to move forward with the kind of innovative leadership that British Columbians have always shown in forestry. We're going to make sure that we're continuing to support the communities and the families that rely on the forestry industry. We know that a big part of restarting our economies and building back better is going to involve construction, which is going to require forestry products. But the Americans continue to think that having people pay higher prices than necessary for their lumber is a good thing for the economy. Of course, they're wrong. We're going to continue to fight for the interests of Canadian forestry industry and families.
Mr. Trudeau, there are a lot of people dying with drug overdose now. Even in BC and Ontario, you've probably seen those numbers. Any plan to kind of prevent those deaths?
It is a heartbreaking situation for far too many families who've seen losses because of the opiate challenge. That's why we've moved forward with historic investments in creating a safer supply so people don't have to rely on dangerous street drugs in order to deal with their addictions. We're trying to shift it from a justice issue to a health issue, to understand that mental health supports, addiction supports, but also things like anti-poverty fighting and fighting homelessness and creating housing are parts of the ways we're going to get through this. And I'm looking forward to speaking with Premier Horgan a little later today about the things that we can do together to make sure that Canadians are safer.
Since Canada has large number of international students who are medically fit, they pay taxes, they're strong, would you consider starting a program giving them PR status? Because lots of students are here now.
As we look at the need for more immigration in Canada, international students are a natural way of, as you say, taking people who've already got Canadian experience, already lived here and succeeded here through our schools over many years, and strengthening the pathways that international students get upon graduation towards becoming Canadians is something that we're absolutely looking at.
Are you going to make some kind of recommendation to Her Majesty Queen about replacing the Governor General, Julie Payette?
We have an excellent Governor General right now, and I think on top of the COVID crisis, nobody's looking at any constitutional crises. We have put in place a process to review some of the working conditions at Rideau Hall, but that's not something that we're contemplating right now going further than that.
And India-Canada relations are all-time low now. What is your strategy to improve them?
Actually, I disagree strongly with that. We have excellent relations with India. We saw that through the unprecedented efforts there where the Indian and Canadian governments worked together to bring back over 20,000 Canadians who were in India during this pandemic. We've worked on deepening trade ties. We've worked on collaboration on pharmaceuticals and vaccines. And I can assure you that the people-to-people ties, the business ties, the cultural ties that exist between Canada and India continue to strengthen and deepen every single year.
And also, Prime Minister, are you planning to call an election in the near future?
As you know, we're in a minority parliament right now, so it will be up to Parliament to decide whether or not there is an election. My focus right now is on helping Canadians. I don't think we need an election. I think we need to move forward on building a stronger Canada and supporting Canadians. But of course, that's something that we're going to put to Canadians in a throne speech. I think it's important to have a reset of Parliament because obviously the things we need to do as a country and as a government now in COVID are not the things that we talked about after the last election where we didn't know that there was a COVID pandemic. Nobody could imagine the situation we're in right now. So we need a new plan for creating a greener, fairer Canada where you're creating more opportunities for women, more opportunities for vulnerable Canadians that COVID has demonstrated we need to do more. So we're going to be putting forward that ambitious plan to Parliament at the end of September, and then Parliament and the other parties will vote on it, whether or not we have, as a government, the confidence to deliver, the confidence of Parliament to deliver that plan. I look forward to that debate, and I look forward to that vote because I'm sure that Canadians want us to keep being there to help them. I made a promise to Canadians through the beginning of this pandemic that we would have people's backs, and we're going to continue to do exactly that.
Prime Minister, please accept my sincere thanks for your time. And anything like to add in closing?
Well, listen, this is my first virtual visit to British Columbia. Obviously, we're challenged with COVID-19 in terms of the kinds of travel that I would normally like to do. So it's an opportunity for me to meet with British Columbians and talk with British Columbians today, throughout the day in various meetings with stakeholder groups, with the premiers, with experts, and it's really good to be virtually in BC. And quite frankly, I can't go to BC without having an opportunity to talk to all the great Red FM listeners. So I'm glad that I'm on here today. Thank you for everything you're doing for the community.
Thank you very much. I know you have a special relationship with Vancouver, and please come and visit us at Red FM Studio whenever next time you're here in Surrey.
I would like that very much, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Red FM